Hey, Composer Gloves here, and today we're going to talk about how meter is related to rhythm. So this is where a lot of people in FL, this is where I really get my beef on, is when people say that there's no difference between just changing the grid marker settings and writing in a different rhythm, blah, 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 blah. And I just think some of these arguments are just they just don't know. So we're going to educate you some. So whenever you write down in 4/4, there is a rhythm that's supposed to go with it. It doesn't go with it in FL, which is why people can conclude incorrect things. So in 4/4, we have 4 notes, and this one's called the downbeat. It's the first beat. It is the strong beat. We have our each beat is a downbeat. However, the first one, if you ever hear musicians be like, "Hey, pick it up on the downbeat," pickups to the downbeat, they mean play the notes right before the first beat. That's the strongest beat, and each meter will give you a strongest beat. It's one that's supposed to get a little more emphasis than the other beats. And the rest of the beats are still technically downbeats, but and sometimes it's referred to as beats 1 and 3 is downbeats. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And so 3 would be considered like the second strongest beat, and then these two would be like weak beats, like just weak, man. And they're very, very useful for creating rhythms. Now, in 4/4, there's a rhythm suggested. See, we count it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4. So the 1 gets the emphasis. It sounds sort of like Indian chant, ay, 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 that kind of a thing. Now there's syncopations and things we can do to make this not true anymore, but that is the rule. Like, that's how it works. That's what a meter does for you. And syncopations change the game completely. But when we, let's say that, okay, so we have this second strong beat we can have, and then we have our strongest beat, or we can have all 3 weak and 1 strong. Now, if we were to do this, let's go over here to change our settings and project settings, and we will change it to be 3/4. Now you'll see our strong beat occurs more often. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. So we have our strong beat occurring a beat more often. So 1 beat's been taken away, so it therefore occurs a beat earlier than it did before. This allows us to create that particular rhythm, and we have that thing that goes with it. There's this style that's associated with it. Now, if we come over here, this is stuff that like people just, oh man, I wish they understood. So in 2/4, a lot of things that confused me when I was first starting out was the idea of 2/4. For example, why not just write it in 4/4? I was like, why do we have this 2/4? I didn't understand rhythm. Now it's 1, 2, 1, 2. So if you're marching, it's more, the strong beat's going to occur whenever you put down, in my case, it was always my left foot. I was trained to walk and my left foot led. So left, right, left, right, left, right. I believe in the military, I don't know what the military one is, but who knows? Maybe it's different in military worldwide. I don't know. Maybe what military does your government use? Like, do they use the left foot first or the right foot first? I believe it's right, left. I don't even remember. But anyways, that's why. It's because the strong beat occurs every other beat. Strong, weak, strong, weak, strong, weak. That's how it goes. And so it's really, really easy to march to. It's way more convenient. So this would actually be more correctly shown as this. So that's why you pick your meters. That's why you would go from 4/4 to 3/4 to 4/4 to 3/4. That's a thing. Now, we have these other cases that are more open to interpretation. Mostly in compound meter, there are things like 5/4 that give us the same problem. We're just going to look at 6/8. So here's 6/8, and we can do things like this, right? Actually, let me get rid of these. Do that. Here we go. Okay, so here's 6/8. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you see we can emphasize beats 1 and 3, and that rhythm is suggested by this meter. But we can say, no, we want it like this, so that like this. So every other beat gets emphasized. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Or we could have it emphasized some other way. There's all these different ways to do it. Generally, it's the 2 groups of 3 or the every other beat. So now we have more options for rhythm. One reason why we would pick a compound meter, 3/8. That's why we would choose 3/8. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It's the same. It's the same idea. Only now it's a compound meter that we're working in. So that's why 3/8 is used sometimes. So this is all really interesting information, right? So it's like, oh, okay. Now in 5/4, you could choose to divvy it up. You could choose to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, or you could choose to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you get this combination of 2 meters. So instead of going back and forth between 3/4 and 2/4, or a measure of 3 and a measure of 2, you could just go and a measure of 3 and 2. Now, we're working in the piano roll. I'm discussing all these rules, but we're working in the piano roll, so we have to artificially create it. And this is where a lot of people have lost they don't know that these meters are to insinuate particular rhythms. And so their compositions are not as interesting as they could be. They don't naturally add these. They probably leave all the notes at the same velocity level. At the same velocity level. And it's just not okay. It's okay, I guess, but if you really want to make your music interesting, that's why moving volume changes like that could create such dynamic feel. You're using rhythm. Go figure, like actual rhythm, unless you're using samples and someone else used rhythm for you. And this is just a really neat thing. So if you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.